Hey everybody, so welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do some planting. I got a few things I'm going to plant. Like I'm going to plant some breakfast radishes. Oh, you can't see that. There you go. Some French breakfast radishes. I'm going to plant some tatsoi that I have saved and some collard greens from seed that I have saved. So we're going to do it in this spot here. I've already gotten this area behind me all planted up. So one of the things you got to think about is the orientation of your bed. Not sexual orientation, that's a whole other matter. But the orientation of your bed as far as east, west, or north and south. Because if you have a north and south bed, then primarily what's going to happen is the sun's going to pass here. This is north and south here, for the most part. The sun's going to pass here, and so pretty much, regardless of the height of the vegetables or plants, you're going to get sun pretty much all day long. All right, but when you do an east-west bed like here, one of the things you want to consider is which plants are going to be tallest, and do you want them in the back to get maximum sunlight, or do you want them in the front to shade the plants behind them? Now, this being fall and we're coming up on winter here soon, what I want to do is on the east-west beds, I want to put the tall plants in the back so that I can get maximum sunlight through the colder months on the shorter plants in front. Like here I've got carrots, and then behind that I've got kale, the curly kale, which doesn't get too tall, and then behind that I've got broccoli, which does get pretty tall. Alright, so that's the plant. Now here, what I'm going to plant, like I said, is I'm going to put some collards in the back for no particular reason, tatsoi in the front, and radishes in between. Alright, because I kind of want the tatsoi to be covering that front edge, and then the radishes in the softer soil in the middle, and then the collards, I'll grow them up in the back, and then we'll have these garlic chives behind to try and hopefully keep the bug pressure off of all of them. Alright, so before I do that, what I got to do is, you probably can't see too well, but I got a lot of little plants that are weeds or other seeds that I've had in here but I don't really want, and I got a little bit of trash like this that came out of the compost that needs to all be cleaned up. Now to do that, I can go through and individually pick each little weed plant and pull it out, or I can just grab a rake and rake the whole thing out, which is what I'm going to do. That should disturb these tiny seedlings enough to where they won't make it. That's interesting. I don't know what that was. Anyway, to where they won't make it, and then the only thing that should grow in here is going to be my desired vegetables. All right, so let's break this out. And by doing this, this also smooths out the bed, allows you to put straighter lines in, and makes it easier to tell what you planted and what is actually just weeds. And then what I'll do is I'll take all this excess, trash will go to the side, and the rest go into my little bucket, and we'll go back into the compost, because a lot of this is going to be the stuff that is a little bit more coarse, and you probably use a little bit more time in the compost bin. All right. Now you can toss it to the side, you can toss it in another bed. You know, this is good composted dirt. I don't want to waste it. So you do what you want with it. But I am getting to the point where I'm starting to run out of room on my beds. So I'm either going to have to remove dirt, or I'm going to have to build up. But with me getting older, I'll probably just build up, so there's not as much stooping. Which is something to think about as well. Alright, there we go. Set that aside. And now we're going to get to planting. Now one of the things I like to use is 2 sticks and a string. All right. Now, do you have to? No. You don't have to do anything but pay taxes and die. And some of that's optional. But I like to do it because as time goes on, and I'll show you here in a little bit, you're going to find that things happen, and you'll either get weeds coming up, or like what happened over here, I had a cat come out here and make a deposit for me, and when they do that, that causes the seeds to go everywhere. All right, so by doing this, I know what I planted and where. And then I know what not to pull. Now I know that all my beds are 12 foot long at the longest, okay? So I've got 12 foot of string on here, and then what I do, I just roll it up on the stick, or this is piping in this case, and then I can roll it out as necessary to make it longer or shorter, as the case may be. All right. And just tighten that up a little bit, and then from there, yeah, that's close enough. So here in this spooky season, are you looking for something spooky to watch? Well, if you are, check this out. It's an outstanding podcast. It's not for children. It's got some curse words in it. It's got some adult themes in it, but it's very fun. It's interesting, and I have family involved in it. So please check it out. It's all free. Enjoy, and let us know what you think.
Come on! Everyone get in!
We need to go and get help. If we head towards the gas station down south, we can get some self-service and call the cops or something.
Where's Benny and Erica? They were with us in the office, weren't they?
I thought so, but...
Benny is dead and Erica's gone. He took them when you left.
What if there's something we can do?
Like what? There is nothing else we can do but go and get help.
It's your choice what you want to do, Miles. But I'm gonna toss that bastard into a fire and send whatever's inside of it back to the birds. Where it belongs.
Alright, so now I got my line, and again, you don't need straight lines. The straight lines are just for me, because what I do is then I know where my line is. I know kind of where I've got my seeds planted. Alright, well, I don't want to say that. That's not really right. I guess what I'm trying to say is I can see what's weeds and what's not, because if I have a straight line, what I have planted will grow in a straight line, and anything outside of that is going to be is going to be weeds. So I can pull those up and then leave the plants that I want to keep. Now, typically, you're going to want to look at your seed size or on the package. Now, on these, I don't have a package on the Tatsoi and so on, so I don't really know for sure how deep to plant them. I mean, I can go dig it up on the internet or whatever, but it's a good rule of thumb is basically 3 times the size of the seed. All right, so these seeds are probably 1/8 of an inch, so 3 times that's 3/8 or a quarter, so somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2. For smaller seeds, I mean, it's a pretty good rule of thumb between 1/2 and 1/4 inch. All right, so I'm just going to take and run my finger lightly along the surface here. And that's what the string is for. I follow the string. So I got a pretty straight line. And then you sprinkle your seeds. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this. You can try and plant individual seeds, or if you got plenty of seed like I do because I've harvested my own, then I can be a lot more liberal and just kind of sow along as I go. Oops, like I just spilled some. And then we'll thin them out as time goes on and the plants get bigger. That is one of the advantages of saving your own seeds. If I'm not paying for the seeds, I'm not spending money planting them. All right, and you know me, I like to do this on the cheap wherever possible because you know, I was watching some video and they were talking about how it costs them $60 to grow a tomato. And I'm like, man, if you're spending $60 to grow a tomato, in my opinion, you're doing it wrong. I mean, I know it's organic and all that, but you know, even organic tomatoes don't cost you $60. At least not anywhere I've ever been. So I will say, some of these organic farms tend to be pretty expensive. All right, so we'll put the excess back in here. Make sure you put them back where they go if you're using plastic bags. Or any bag, really. Seal that up. And always try and keep your seeds in the shade wherever possible. You don't want to get getting overheated because that can kill your seeds. They'll get cooked. And one of the other things too to keep in mind when you're planting is how are you going to go about pulling weeds. If you're going to do it all by hand, you can plant them as close as you want within reason, because you got to remember that, you know, your seeds have got to get nutrition and water, and the closer you plant them, the more competition there is. All right, that's just something to keep in the back of your head. So then I just cover them up, lightly pack it with my hand, and then we'll water them in. But before we do that, we're gonna put a little tag action in there so that you know what you got. Do you have to? No, because once they grow up, you'll know what they are. But it's always a good idea so you know what's planted where. Now the other thing to think about, if you're down up here in Northeast Florida like I am, is what is going to grow well this time of the year. Now you can get that information from various different sources, UF, University of Florida, is a great place to go for that information. It'll help you out. It'll kind of tell you what you need to do and when to do it. Or you can go by experience and so on. Like Tatsoi, I know, will grow pretty well into the summertime, so a little bit of heat won't hurt it. Bok choy, on the other hand, if it gets over 80, it'll bolt. I mean, just almost guaranteed it'll bolt. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of space these out. This one I'm going to do about the width of my foot, plus or minus a few. And again, remember, this is your garden, so it only has to be exact as you want it to be. All right. All right. So now another thing we're going to do is we're going to do what's called succession planting. All right, you can only eat so many radishes. I mean, you know, if you're really into radishes, maybe you can eat more. But typically, I mean, unless you're making a dish made from radishes, you're not going to want too many all at once. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a short row. I'm going to fill it with radishes. And I really like these French breakfast radishes. They're good radishes. Now I did have to buy these seeds, so I try to be a little more careful with how many I toss in there. And I will do better, hopefully this year, at collecting the seeds once the season is over and they start to seed out. Well, how will you know where you stopped? Wherever they stopped growing. is what you're going to want to do is wait till these get up, and once they're up about, oh, I don't know, 3-4 inches, then you're going to want to go ahead and say, okay, well, it's time to start planting some more. I'll plant another section, and then once those get up to about 3 or 4 inches, I'll plant the final section. By that time, these probably will have been taken out, and I can either replant or decide to plant something else in there. All right. And then what I'm going to do is collards. Now, collards get big, and I mean, they can get really big. So I'm going to space the gap between here and my huyas in the back, my garlic chives. Now, it's been my experience. Hang on one second, let me write this down. French breakfast. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, so I thought you were talking about planting them in height order. Well, remember, this is a north-south bed, so I don't have to do that. 1, and 2, tatsoi tends to stay pretty low. Radishes can get kind of tall, so they're going to probably outgrow height-wise the tatsoi either way. So it really doesn't matter that much on a north-south bed though. All right, so that's really not my plan. Next we're going to plant some collards. Now collards, the seeds are actually about the same size as radish seeds, but the plants get huge. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit deeper, probably closer to 1/2 inch on these. Just because of that, I don't want the plants to be falling over. So, and then knowing the growth habits of the plants you're planting is a very good thing. And I know if you're just starting, you really don't know. Like I know that tatsoi will make, you know, a plant about that big around. All right, so that's why I've kind of gapped them a little further away from the front edge here. All right, and then the radishes will grow upright and above the tatsoi, so they'll still be able to get some sun, even though it might kind of bleed over into there. And that will hopefully shade out this whole bed between the tatsoi, the radish greens, and oops, I shouldn't have done that yet. And then the collards behind. All right, so like I said, I'm going to try and go closer to about 1/2 inch. And again, your rows don't have to be straight. All right, straight rows do not make things grow better. All right, but it just makes it easier for me to identify, once again, what's what. Now to prep these beds, what I did, first I grew a bunch of compost. All right, and I pulled all the weeds out, any old dead plants. And then covered it liberally with compost. Now, can you dig your compost in? Yeah, you can. One of the things that happens here in Florida, because we have such sandy soil, is a lot of times that compost, well, the goodies from the compost will get washed down into the sand in the lower soil. So I think it's better to put the compost on top, and that's what nature does. Nature doesn't dig up the soil to mix in the compost. It's just stuff that rots down on top of the soil. All right, a little bit of poop, a little bit of pee, a whole lot of leaves, dead plants, dead animals, dead bugs, just basically the Earth's master plan at recycling. Yeah. Now, like I said, the collard plants get big, so I'll have to thin these, but that's also an opportunity to take some of the plants out, and if you can get them out successfully with some roots on them, then that's a great time to be able to give stuff away. All right, you know, I got one kid that gardens pretty avidly, another one who's getting into it, but both of them are willing to take plants. Then I got neighbors and such. They're always willing to take a few plants here and there, depending on what I've got. And we try and trade off wherever possible. Share amongst ourselves. Now, as far as the string, you don't have to pull it out. You can leave it where it sits and pull it out later. But I know I'm going to be using it for some more planting as the season goes on. Though I am starting to run out of room in these particular gardens. I've got the ones behind me, beyond the wood. There. Sounds like some kind of kid story, beyond the wood. Alright, so that's how I go about planting. Then the last step is we want to water everything in good. I'll be right back. Alright, so the last thing is we want to water everything in. And you want to soak it down initially, at least, very well. Alright, because not only does this provide moisture for the seeds to recognize that it's time to start growing, but it also causes that soil to soak down and get compacted around the seeds so that there's close contact with moist soil all the way around the seed. Alright, so good soaking after planting is good, and then I will come out here like this area here. I planted this earlier, but I soak this down at least once a day, if not twice. Once the seeds get up and grown, then you can kind of back off on that. Alright everybody, so thanks for stopping by. Do me a favor, give me a like and a subscribe, and let me know what you think. But most importantly, grow something. Get something grown in your backyard. You'll thank yourself later. Alright, come back and see me now.